Our next section is comparing characteristics of functions, and remember to be using your correction sheet as you go along as I'm working the question. So it says, Thomas is a car salesman who can be paid one of two ways. He can be paid a salary of $1,600 per month, plus an extra $300 for each car that he sells, or he can be paid a salary of $300 plus $1,600 for every car that he sells. A graph representing each possibility is shown below in graphs A and B. Question number 1 asks, which option, A or B, shows the higher initial amount, also called the y-intercept? And it also asked exactly what is that higher amount. So remember, the y-intercept, just like an interception in football, is when the player gets in the way of the pass. Well, an intercept is when the graph actually hits the y-axis. Remember, this is your y-axis right here. So initial amount, aka y-intercept, is going to be whatever this amount is that hits the graph right here. So you can tell from the graph that the first situation, where you can be paid a salary of $1,600 per month plus $300 for each car, is this one right here, because the dot hits right there at the $1,600 mark, and it goes up by $300 each time. You can tell that graph B represents the second situation, where he gets paid $300 to start, then $1,600 for every car, because this one goes up by $1,600. So in the first part, he starts off, aka his initial amount. Remember, initial amount and y-intercept mean the same thing. Initial, your name is the initial. The initial of your name is at the beginning. So however much you started with at the beginning. So the initial amount in graph A is $1,600. The initial amount in graph B is $300. So option A is a higher initial amount because it is $1,600. The other one only has an initial amount of $300. Remember that the question asked specifically exactly what is that higher initial amount. So on your paper, if you just said option A, it was not counted. You had to say option A is higher, and also that the higher amount is $1,600. Number 14, we still got the same situation. It says, which option has the higher rate of change? So in the first situation, which we already determined, this is the first situation, this is the second situation. So in this one, he started out with the initial amount of $1,600, but then it went up $300 for every car that he sells. So his rate of change is $300. As the number of cars goes up, his amount of money that he makes goes up by $300. In the second situation, he starts off with $300. And then he gets paid $1,600 for every car that he sells. So his rate of change for this one is $1,600, because it goes up by, for every car that he sells, he gets another $1,600. So which one has a higher rate of change? That would be option B, because it's $1,600. So basically in option A, your initial amount was $1,600, but your rate of change went up more slowly. Here, your initial amount was only $300, but it goes up more quickly. Number 15, if Thomas weren't a good salesperson and he normally sells no cars, which option would be the best for him? How much would he make with that option if he sells no cars? So the one that's going to be the best, if he sells no cars, so 0 cars right here, on this option, he would still make $1,600 because that's his initial amount, or how much he makes every month regardless of how many cars he sells. On this one, at 0 cars sold, he only makes $300. So option A is better because he would make $1,600. So now we've got Moira replaced $2 in an empty piggy bank and then added $3 every month. The same day, Nathan placed $5 in an empty piggy bank and then added $3 every month. The graph below represents their savings. Based on this graph, which statement is true? So let's see. The amounts in the piggy banks will always be equal. Well, you can tell from the graph that amounts are never equal. I mean, even when they started, she started with 2, he started with 5. So they weren't even the same when they began. So that's not right. After the amount in each piggy bank reaches $30, the amounts will continue to be equal. Well, no. So let's see. Moira put $2 in her account and then added 3 every month. So 2, 5, 8, 11, and so on. If she keeps going up by $3 every month. Nathan started out with 5, but he's also going up by 3 every month. So 8, 11, 14, etc. His is always going to be a little bit bigger because they're both going up by 3, but he started off with a little bit more. So the amounts are not going to be equal. At the end of 5 months, the amounts will be equal. Well, no, you can tell just by looking at the graph. He is going to have more than she is. So the amounts in the piggy banks will never be the same. That's it. It's going to be A. His is always going to be just a little bit bigger.